Welcome back. Let's get more on that story that Donald Trump says additional major sanctions will be imposed on North Korea after Pyongyang announced it had tested a new intercontinental ballistic missile and its nuclear weapons could now reach all of the US mainland. Let's speak to Professor Hugh Dugan, who's a former career diplomat at the State Department working with the United Nations. Welcome here to the programme. So what is your assessment? How worrying is this latest launch?
Well, we hear a lot about the military aspects of the launch, but we should really focus now on the diplomatic aspect. This changes the calculus in any negotiation with North Korea, unfortunately, in their favor when it comes to looking at the nuclear weapons program that they're developing.
Why does it change it, and why in its favor?
Well, it creates an impression or perception of their capacity being beyond what we have expected it to be. They surprised us in July with their tests, and I think they surprised us yesterday. But frankly, we should not be too surprised. We seem to get used to the fact that if there's no news about something for 2 weeks or so and that they've gone quiet, that things are okay. But in fact, they aren't. So our impression must be that the new cycle here can't dictate how we assess the North Korean situation because they will take it on their own cycle.
The French have just said in the last few minutes that they support more tough sanctions from the UN. In terms of that diplomatic route, you're such a seasoned diplomat. How much tougher can sanctions actually get, do you think?
Well, I was impressed to see China close a key bridge that regulates almost 50% of trade between the countries. And it's also suspended airline travel to North Korea. So that's encouraging. There are still other steps that we could pursue, and we have to identify what those are, and that will take work to do. But the more that we depend upon sanctions, I think the more China will cooperate. They do not want to see any type of military strike, and they do not want to see an ascendancy of U.S. predominance in the region. The crisis has brought the two countries together at an interesting time with President Xi and the Congress and our new President Trump, and it created a sense of urgency in the entire relationship. And that urgency has been beneficial so far. Yep. But if China acts on it, the United States is going to be able to take more presence in the region as a dependable ally to those that China apparently is not able to affect.
The one thing you've left out of the equation is any sort of talk about a military option for the Americans. And yet, when you look at Donald Trump yesterday, there was none of that bluster, no threat saying, we will sort this. You get the sense that the White House hasn't ruled it out this time. It may have been ruled out by Obama in the past, but this time it very clearly is on the table.
Everything's on the table, and so is diplomacy. In fact, diplomacy is the table, and these are the channels we're using right now. It's coming to a point of geostrategic change, perhaps, for the U.S. to decide whether or not they look to more of a military strike, or perhaps that we need to, in the United States, shift to consider a strategy of containment and deterrence against North Korea. And that would be a big shift. And that's why I believe North Korea has gained a bit of upper hand this last day, because they forced the U.S. to reevaluate its diplomatic posture in the region altogether.
Well, Professor Dugan, thanks so much for that analysis. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.